The Salvation Army's relationship with Denver's leaders may be beyond saving. After months of controversy about issues at their shelters, today that nonprofit put out a misleading statement saying it's made the difficult decision to no longer operate 3 of the Denver City shelters. The city says the decision was actually made for the Salvation Army when it failed to win contracts to keep running the shelters. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The Tamarack Shelter in southeast Denver, the Aspen, formerly the Doubletree in Central Park, and Stone Creek, the former Best Western near Northfield, all 3 are Denver shelters operated by the Salvation Army. And like a head coaching candidate who takes their name out of the running after being told they were not going to get the job, the Salvation Army told Denver City Council members today it would no longer manage those 3 shelters next year.
There are 3 shelters that are currently running that were in the RFP process, which is a fancy way of saying you're applying for the job of running the shelters. They bid on 2 of the 3. Ultimately, they were not selected to move forward.
John Ewing, spokesperson for Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, confirmed that the Salvation Army applied and was not selected. The mayor and city council had concerns earlier this year about who else could handle shelters at this scale. Ewing could not say yet who has been picked to operate the shelters next year.
I can't tell you who won it. I can only tell you that in this case, because the Salvation Army disclosed it, who did not.
Victory lap I will be doing, absolutely. It's a win for community.
The 2 North Denver shelters are in City Council member Chantel Lewis's district, and she has been a vocal critic following multiple shootings at the former Doubletree location and after an employee at that shelter was accused of sexual assault.
For me, it's actually not a surprise that the Salvation Army is maybe not moving forward because we now have metrics in place to hold you accountable to the outcomes versus just being able to collect money and have bad outcomes in poor environments.
The most recent incident at a Salvation Army operated shelter was last month when an 11-year-old girl at the Tamarack shelter was injured falling from an unprotected top floor window ledge. We have reported extensively on that, leading a spokesperson with the Salvation Army to refuse our interview request today, at least with me. In a phone conversation, spokesperson Jennifer Forker told me, "We are not going to be providing an interview to 9 News. You will just have to cobble together your shock jock. You can send someone else to do the story, and that will be serviceable." In their letter to City Council members, the Salvation Army wrote, the decision was also due to substantial and ongoing financial strain, and that it absorbed more than $5.2 million in operating costs. I asked John Ewing from the city if the Salvation Army has been reimbursed for every expense requested. He said there's a set dollar amount to be reimbursed in the contract, and he told me the Salvation Army has not yet spent all the dollars remaining for this year.
Things happen all the time between government service providers and the changing leadership of municipalities and that kind of thing. But this has been a pretty wild flame out between the city and Salvation Army over the last years.
I mean, there's lessons on both sides. We've been critical of the city and how they've been starting up the shelters and how much money that has cost. And then you've got this organization with the Salvation Army operating it, being the first operator for the city of Denver, clearly growing pains on both ends for the first year and a half of this.
Absolutely bonkers for them to spin it as we have made a decision to stop operating the shelters if in fact the city is telling the truth and they simply lost the process. That's
as though we wouldn't be able to find that out.
Right? Eventually it's going to be on paper somewhere. All right, Marshall, thank you.